Everyone, it's Evan Runnable. I have a new shoe in the house. Here you go, have a good look at this. It's the Kiprun KD900X.2. So in this review, I'll be giving you my first impressions of this super daily trainer. I think when you position this shoe, think about the EVO Outsole, think about the Mac X2, think about those shoes that you could use as a kind of daily trainer but go up tempo. Those that would be really good for speedier, quicker runs rather than things like the Nike Vomero Premium, which is more like an easy day shoe, or the Neo Vista 2 is a bit more like an easy day shoe. This is very much in line with the EVO Outsole and the Mac X2. Anyway, stand by for the full review, watch the run footage, and then see my thoughts on the Kiprun KD900X.2. See you later. Love you all. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, it's Evan Runnable on this not very pleasant autumnal afternoon. I'm in my local park again, Oak Hill Park, and on my feet I've got some new shoes to try out. They are the aptly named, and who comes up with these names, eh? The KD900X.2. Let me show you them. So these are my first entry into the Kiprun family of shoes. I'm quite excited by these ones because it only cost me £99, which, if they're any good, means that they're already an absolute smash, or as Joanna would call a banger, right? I'll call it a smash. They're smashing it. And if they are that good, and I've got a feeling they might be, then it's looking like Decathlon and Kiprun are really smashing it out the park. But I want to just give them a quick run, do about, I don't know, say, what should we do, about 8k, something like that. So give you my first impressions. Remember folks, these are my first impressions. Of course that might change over time. So when you watch these first run reviews, always take them with a bit of a pinch of salt. But what you can normally guarantee is if they're not very good to start with, the chances are they're not going to get much better. Occasionally it's different. The Nike Vomero Premium, for example, I wasn't sold on initially, but now I am, so that can change. But normally as well, if they're really good to start with, they're only going to get better as that foam breaks in. But then again, it depends on things like durability and stuff like that. That's why we have these 100-mile reviews. But this first run review is for the, as I said, the KD900X point or dot, whatever, 2. And we'll see if these are any good. Stand by for my run footage. I'll see you soon. And we'll have the full review back at the office. See you soon. Bye-bye. Or should I say back at the kitchen. See you soon. Bye. Okay. So I'm in my Kiprun's KD900X.2. I'm not going to say that too often. I'm just going to call them the X.2s from now on. And yeah. First impressions are very good, folks. So let's just go through the fit first of all. The fit is actually quite nice, but you've got to be careful here. So I did a little bit of research before I bought these, and every man and his dog was saying go down half a size. So I went 8.5, and that was a good call, because they are, even at 8.5, I've got loads of space in the toe box, so that should be ample for you. If you all go down half a size, that should be good. What else? So the upper itself, very lightweight mesh, no frills kind of upper. Design wise it looks weirdly like a Puma shoe, and then the actual logo, the K on the side, looks a bit like the N from New Balance. I mean, it's couldn't be that Kiprun are still stealing ideas from other brands, surely not. But anyway, that's really a kind of mute point. They look all right, is the point there. The upper itself's very comfortable. I did do a runner's knot. I felt that they were slightly loose to start with, so I think this runner's knot will really help me in terms of the lockdown. See what you think, folks, but for me that's fixed any lockdown issues in the upper. It's got decent padding around the heel collar and counter, and all in all, upper's pretty good. Very simple, very lightweight. I think it'll be very breathable, and so I think good marks are coming the way of this upper. Outsole, very reminiscent of some of the Chinese super shoes that I've been using, and also the light traction that's in the new Adidas Pro 4. It's that kind of plasticky compound that actually grips remarkably well, and this is no different. Getting really good grip out here. The floor is soaking wet, and we'll see in a minute as I go down this slope exactly what I mean by a good grip, because this could be potentially quite skiddy with the wrong shoe on, and that grip really well. So yeah, the outsole you're not going to have a issue with, and it's got really good coverage along the whole of this outsole, so I think again it's going to be very functional, simple, but do the job. We'll have to see over time how hard wearing it is. So the midsole now, probably the most interesting part. So this has actually got a carbon plate that runs quite low down, but I do feel the plate, but I really do feel this VFOAM as well. It reminds me a lot, maybe the geometry and the foam of the Mach X2. That also has a plate, but that's a nylon plate. And I think this is the closest shoe that I've got to this one. The X.2 from Kiprun. The Mach X2 is probably the closest one I own. It feels like you've got quite a bit of stack height in the heel, but not so much in the forefoot. So I'm guessing 8mm drop at least. Feels like that. And again, there's some similarity with the Mach X2, which I could never really understand because that was supposedly a 6mm drop. So a lot of, in theory, foam in the forefoot. Never felt that way to me, and I think this is the same. That said, you know, you're not getting ground feel or anything like that, but you just, it doesn't feel as ridiculous as some of these other shoes that you get absolutely no ground feel even. So that's the geometry. It's got a decent rocker as well, again like the Hoka shoe, which has got a nice rocker. This has as well. So all in all, midsole, first impressions, I'm really liking it. You get a nice bounce, nothing too crazy, but you feel like you can definitely pick up the pace in this shoe. Let's give that a go now. Yeah, so I'm not going to do loads because I'm tired for doing those 2 half marathons, but already feels easy to pick up the pace. Really easy, in fact. I'm predicting now this is going to be a hit doing intervals. Maybe I'll do my interval session tomorrow in this shoe so we can test that out. Put in the comments if you want me to do that. But that was quite easy to pick up the pace. It's so lightweight. I'm guessing it could even be under 100 grams this shoe. So let's do a bit of heel striking now. Yeah, I'm landing kind of flat now and it feels fine. I think you heel strikers are going to be fine with this. Doesn't feel weird really at all, just feels normal. So that's a good sign. In terms of stability, I don't think, it doesn't feel like the most stable shoe. I think the foam midsole is softish, so maybe for you heavier runners it might be a little bit too soft. For me it's just about perfect, just like the Mac X2. I think if you found the Mac X2 unstable, you might find this one unstable as well. Bear in mind though, this does have a carbon plate, but I feel like it's one of those carbon plates that's really flexible, which I quite like, rather than the really rigid ones like in the Primex Strung 3 for instance, that really hurt my feet. So in summary, really nice upper, simple, lightweight, no issues there. Outsole grippy, you see all these leads here, not a problem. I think good rubber coverage, I think that's going to be good. Midsole, nice bounce. You can feel the plate a little bit, not too much, but the plate feels flexible, not harsh at all on your feet. The foam, this VFOAM, is on the side of being soft rather than firm. So if you like your shoe softish, you'll like this one. And all in all, at the £99, I think this is going to be an absolute steal of a shoe. Already I'm loving it, and I think you will too. Stand by for the first run review, I'll say it again, of the Kiprun KD900X.2. I'll see you later. Love you all. Bye bye. Okay folks, let's have some key stats around this shoe. So it's a very lightweight shoe. This comes in at 199 grams in my UK size 8.5. I went down half a size. I did some research on this shoe, and I would definitely say go half a size down, unless you've got massive feet and you need a lot more volume. I think you definitely need to go half a size down. I went from 9 to 8.5 in this shoe, and I've got lots of space around the toe box. So if I hadn't have done that, I think it would have been rather, there'd be so much room here at where my toes are. So yeah, it goes half a size down. That's the first thing you should consider. Second thing, obviously, like I said, it's very lightweight, but even though it's lightweight, you still got a lot of cushion here. So you still got 44 millimeters in the heel, 32 in the forefoot, 8 millimeter drop. It feels a bit flatter than that, I have to say. If you've got the Hoka Mac X2, the feeling of this shoe is reminiscent of this shoe, because even though this has got a massive stack height, somewhere around 44, 45 millimeters, it always felt flatter to me. And I get the same feeling with this shoe. I feel like it's something to do with the geometry of the shoe. But anyway, all I would say is you still get ample cushion here. The other thing to note as well is the insole. If I can try and rip the insole out a little bit, you've got one of the you've got one of the thickest insoles that I've ever seen here. It's got to be 5 millimeters in itself. So that, what that actually means is you get a lot of cushioning from that insole itself, but also it reduces the volume in this upper. So the upper itself, I think, is a really nice lightweight mesh material. It's very lightweight, very simple. It's got very adequate lacing. The tongue is kind of similar to the Mega Blast tongue, the Asics Mega Blast tongue. You've got some pads. You can just about see them here and here, so you can cinch those laces. I did a runner's lace loop, basically because I had a little bit of slippage, ankle and foot and heel slippage in this shoe. With that in place, I had none whatsoever. You get some padding in the collar and on the heel counter, not loads, more than say the Mac X2, but a bit less than the EVO SL. But it's ample, I think, and with the runner's lace loops, I think you get a really nice lockdown. All in all, I really like the upper. It's got a semi-rigid heel counter, which means I don't really get much irritation whatsoever on my heel, which is good. And all in all, it fits reasonably well, with no issues with the fit. All I would say is because of that insole, if you've got high volume feet, you might feel the volume is a bit low. For me, I've got fat toes, so it felt a little bit low, but it didn't feel like terrible in any way. It didn't feel like my toes are getting rubbed loads in this shoe. So on the upper, I'd score this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it's a really nice, lightweight, simple designed upper. I only go half a mark down because of some of the lockdown issues I had. But that's a minor quibble because it was kind of fixed by the runner's lace loop. Also, the tongue, I think, is slightly short. It's not gusseted at all, so it can be a bit fiddly getting it in place. And if they'd made it a little bit longer, I think it would have been perfect. Outsole, okay, so you can just about see the rubber there. It's quite reminiscent of a lot of these Chinese shoes that you've got. So I've got the Miro 361, and it's very similar. 361 degrees, and it's very similar. It's got a very similar outsole. This strikes me as quite a grippy, hard wearing outsole. I wore this today on some wet ground with leaves going down hills, and it coped really well. I think it's going to be a great outsole. You've got lots of rubber coverage, and only this area here that's a little bit exposed. You can see the plate, carbon plate, poking through there as well. So I think the outsole's really nice. I'm going to score this 4.5 out of 5. I think the only reason why I'm marking it down half a mark is because in certain places I felt a tiny bit of slipping, but it was really wet today. I mean, it's a really minor quibble going over really wet leaves. I got a slight slip in this, but I think I would have got that in most shoes, to be honest. Otherwise, I think you're going to have no issues with this outsole. And you can see the base, although not particularly wide, is wide enough. We'll talk about stability in a bit. The midsole now. So you've got this P-back dual density midsole. It's P-bar, as I said. It's a really nice foam, this VFOAM. It's soft-ish without being too soft, and initially I thought it was quite soft, and then I realized actually when squeezing it in it's not that soft, but what makes it feel soft I think is the insole, that thick insole. But all in all, it feels just about right for me. I think it feels about similar sort of softness or firmness, whichever way you want to look at it, to the Mac X2. So if you like the feeling of this shoe, you're going to like this shoe. And slightly less dense and slightly softer than the EVO SL. For me, I really enjoyed this midsole. I like the rock geometry, get me flowing, rolling along. I like how it I got a little bit of compression and quick decompression in this shoe. I did engage the plate, but the plate is low down. I think it's going to take quite a few more runs for me to get the most out of that plate. I need to break down this foam a bit. I do feel as a forefoot striker, I'm used to having a lot of stack under the forefoot, and it felt a bit like there was less in this shoe. It felt a lot less stack, and it is less stack than the EVO SL, and also less stack than the Mac X2, because again, yeah, these are max stack, highly cushioned shoes. This is slightly less, particularly in the forefoot. But still, it's ample enough, it's cushioned enough for it to feel like a smooth cushion ride. And I think the foam is so good in this shoe that it protects your feet really well, and it gives you that nice energy return. You get a little bit of pop off that plate. Like I said, I think the more I use this shoe, the more I'm going to engage that plate, the better it's going to get. So So all in all, really nice midsole. I would give this a 4.5 out of 5. I would say half a mark down because I would have liked less of a drop and more stack in the forefoot, but that's just my personal opinion. Those of you that heel strike will probably disagree with me. But for me, I like a 6mm drop in that kind of speedier daily trainer kind of marketplace. I would prefer that than the 8mm that we have here, and I'd prefer the extra to be in the forefoot. So that's the midsole, really nice midsole. I can't really fault it, to be honest. That VFOAM is something special, and I know they've just produced a new racing shoe, and I'm really eager to get hold of that now and see what that shoe's like, because if it's anything like this with a more aggressive geometry and bigger stack, then it's going to be something to behold. Just while we're here, if you look at the design of this, doesn't it look like a Puma shoe? Just reminds me of the Puma shoes, and also this K reminds me of the New Balance N. I don't know if you agree with me. Put it in the comments if you think I'm talking you know what, or if I'm actually talking some sense here. I don't know whether that was intentional, but it definitely reminds me of Puma. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about some of the key categories. Stability wise, I didn't feel like this was the most stable shoe, I have to be honest. I mean, there isn't a really wide base. You obviously, it has some stability in terms of the plate there to add some rigidity, but in this upper, there's no real structure. There's a little bit of a toe guard here, and that's mainly to protect your toes. There's no real sidewalls. You've got this little line here of material that kind of helps, but it's quite lightweight. So all in all, I felt like when I was landing, and because it's, I wouldn't say soft's the wrong word, but it's, you know, you get a bit of a kind of bounce, and it's not squidgy, but you do sink a little bit into this foam. I felt like it could be unstable. For me, my mechanics, I thought it was absolutely fine. But I think if you've got stability needs, you may not find this the most stable of shoes. It's kind of similar to the Mach X.2. I keep referencing this shoe because to me, they feel very similar. This just is a more max stack version of this. They honestly, the ride in these two, if you like the ride in this, you're going to love the ride in this, and it's a lot lighter. This is 260 odd grams as opposed to 199, folks. I should mention as well, compared to the weight, this is, I thought this was, EVO was really light at 230 grams, 33. But, you know, it's really put to the sword by this, the Kiprun KD900X.2, which is at 199 grams. It's ridiculously light. So, all in all, I think, yeah, what you've got here is a really light, bouncy shoe, but it's not the most stable shoe. So if you've got stability needs, I would be careful about this one. I think there are better shoes out there with more structure to the upper, with a wider base, and something that will give you more comfort when you're turning those corners where you're hitting the ground hard and you want that more regular bounce. Durability, I just don't know yet. I suspect with this kind of rubber it'll be hard wearing, but I really don't know about durability. We'll have to wait and see for that one, folks, but I suspect it's going to be okay. Speed, really light picking up the speed in this shoe. I think it's because it's so light, and because it's got, you get a bit of a pop from the plate, and you've got this nice rocker that keeps you flowing forward. It's not the most aggressive rocker, but again, similar sort of rocker. If we show the two, you see, they look almost identical, right? To the Mach X.2. So very similar. If you like the kind of rockered ride of this shoe, you'll like it in the Kiprun. So all in all, very easy to pick up pace, and you get this really, like I said, nice compression, decompression. And it really is a very interesting shoe. I think it's kind of a competitor to the EVO SL in terms of being able to be lightweight, but also be a bit of a kind of racer. Either of these two I could race in, wouldn't have any worries. I could even race in the Mac X2, but it was slightly on the heavy side. So it's interesting that these two actually fill that void for people that don't want a super aggressive racer, but want something that's still fairly quick, something that's fairly agile. You could pick either of these two and they would work as a kind of 5K, 10K, half marathon, maybe marathon shoe. I probably personally want something with a bit more stack for those with a bit more cushion, particularly in the forefoot, but they could potentially work for those as well. So what's this good for? I think like the EVO, like the Mac X2, this is going to be good for your up-tempo runs. It's going to be good for doing intervals in. It's going to be really good fast marathon pace sections of your workouts. I think it's going to be fairly versatile. Even when I was running slow in this shoe, it was fine. You just don't engage the plate really. You need to hit the ground harder to engage this. It's a very low lying plate. So I think that's where its sweet spot is. And I honestly believe at the price point, now let's talk about the value, at £99, this is a real competitor, folks, to the EVO. I'm not just saying that. Kiprun have come up with something absolute, well, as Joanna would say, banger. I think they've smashed it, mate. I think this, it really is a competitor to the EVO now. I think it's more lightweight. It's just, the upper's just as nice. In fact, those that found this upper too baggy, you're going to get on better with this upper. I found the only thing, my preference would be to have more of the stack in the forefoot, like you've got with the EVO, but a lot of people didn't like how curved it was when you landed on this shoe. Didn't like the fact it had too much stack there. Maybe you're a heel or midfoot striker, so you might actually prefer the feeling of this shoe, which feels less curved. It feels less of a stack under your foot, and in which case for you guys it's probably going to feel a bit more stable as well. If we compare the outsoles a minute, I would say the EVO slightly wider, so you've got a little bit more of a landing pad here, but they're quite similar in many respects. So, conclusion. I think this is probably, well, it's my only Kiprun shoe that I've ever bought, right? So I can't compare to this with anything else from them, but it really is a top tier speedster of a daily trainer, this shoe. It really is a competitor for the EVO, the Mac X2, Mac X3, and at £99, if we talk about value, it's hard to actually beat this. I mean, like, I thought at £130 this was an absolute bargain, but at £99, how can you actually go wrong with this shoe? I mean, I know some of you are thinking, well, still a lot of money, right? But for a running shoe, it really isn't. For something this this versatile, something that you can use for racing, something that you could actually go on your steadier, easier runs. Actually, I think it's an absolute steal of a price. Just like the EVO, both of these two are in a class of their own in terms of value for money. And now we've got a real competitor on the marketplace to the EVO. Personally speaking, and I'll do a comparison of these two head to head at some point, I kind of prefer the more stack that you get in the forefoot. I like the look of the EVO a little bit more, but I did find that the upper was a little bit, in places, left a bit to be desired in terms of being a bit baggy and a bit hard to get a good lockdown in this shoe. I think that certain things in this upper means that this is an improved experience. It's a bit more snug, a bit more lightweight. You can see my fingers through it. And so it kind of conforms around your foot a little bit better and keeps you nice and locked in. So some of you had stability issues in this shoe, you might find, because the upper is a little bit more race fitting, you find this one helps in terms of stability. So conclusion, very good effort by Kiprun. I think at £99 it's probably the best value running shoe in the marketplace at the moment. I don't know of any better value shoes. Let me know in the comments if you do. I'd advise you all, if you're looking for a bit of a speedster, daily trainer, even a racer, you don't want to pay a lot of money, you don't want it super aggressive, but you want a lovely experience, a nice bounce, compression, decompression, and you love a nice bouncy but not too crazy ride, then you can't go wrong with this shoe at £99. Get down to Decathlon, get it bought before they're all gone. And that's my first run review of the Kiprun KD900, I'll say it one more time, X.2. An absolute dream of a shoe, if only the name matched. And that's that from me today. I love you all. See you soon. Let's have it, Kiprun. Let's have it.